have served our country, either first responders or veterans. We also honor them with this memorial. In my experience, it's iMovie. The more we could do with telling people's story, the better it is for our success. Cut out what we don't want and then hand it back and say, okay, now edit this. That will reduce our expense. That's great. So your JSON file essentially has all your directions. I'm impressed that you guys had this without turning the voice into chipmunk.
Welcome to TimeBolt Office Hours on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. You're live with Doug and Quinson and our compadre, TJ. We're here to answer your questions, check your workflows, and generally just make sure that you get the best out of TimeBolt. Ellen, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thanks. I'm sorry for being late. I just hopped into my email and remembered this was going on. So.
No, absolutely. Great to have you. Have we met before? We have not spoken.
We've only corresponded.
Okay, and are you with the Air Force?
No, I launched a Veterans Foundation on the West Coast in Silicon Valley. I've never worn a uniform, but I've had a number of people in my family who have. And
the Veterans Foundation. So you're pretty much brand new to editing video, and can you tell me a little bit about the video you make?
I'm sure I am dwarfed by all the talent on this call. I'll start there. I actually have a background in sales and marketing for a career. 12 years ago, launched a Veterans Foundation with a few others on the West Coast. What you see behind me is a memorial that we built. It's known as the Flame of Liberty. There's a soldier's cross inside the flame. It was designed by a master designer for the United States Mint. And what we do is we essentially built this memorial because we need to get, well, for a lot of reasons, but I won't go into that in this call. And we run support programs that help those who have served our country, either first responders or veterans. And we also, from our town, have two of the 9/11 heroes who stormed the cockpit on United Flight 93 and prevented that plane from eventually going into the Capitol building. We also honor them at this memorial. In my experience, it's iMovie, but I have hired videographers. We run a 9/11 event every year in honor as a tribute to our 9/11 heroes. I pull feed from a videographer who is a professional, has all the cameras, has the drone, has a few other people working with him. And then I take his feed and I try to adopt it to include a trailer that he might put together, smash the trailer with the actual event video. If people want to see that at the back end. We also do small little videos on pieces, basically different individuals talking about their background and different over the course of time. We've put some shorts on YouTube. We've done a lot of things that I'm sure a lot of all of you have done, but I am rudimentary in comparison to the talent here. And
that's great. Congratulations. And thank you for all that you do for the country and the heroes in 9/11. It's great to just hear of those types of updates in this type of environment.
We're more about healing, especially, and support. If you don't keep the golden goose pumped, you're never going to get the golden egg, right? And with less than 1% of our population volunteering today, it's vitally important to keep doing what we do.
Absolutely. When you're not healing, you're killing, right? So let's hope we can.
It's not good for anybody.
No, especially bad guys. We want to help you in any way we can as far as want to figure out how to get your workflows kind of put together. Seems like you're doing a lot of different types of workflows. It sounds like you got long form and then short form content. TimeBolt is something that if you're working with a video editor, for example, you're going to know what you want to say and the timing of what's important. Video editors don't. They could be in another country. You could be in the same country, right? They could be maybe not even speak your language, barely speak the language that they're actually making the video from, but that's not important. What's great about doing with TimeBolt is that if you look at video as two different axes, you've got your how long it is, right? Every video has a certain length, and then how much depth you're going to add. Some video is built like Avatar with 3,000 layers, or some of them just have a single timeline and it's made to be watchable to a peer or your coworkers. But the key is every video has a specific length, and it's smart to keep that is no longer than is necessary, right? If you can control the length of the video and you can control what's cut and what's important, when you hand that work to a video designer, it's going to be much faster and much easier for you to get the type of quality work that you're looking back. It's not that much to throw in some transitions, to add some background captions, if that's what you want to do once your timeline is cut up and the content you want to keep.
And also just the notion that if I can edit something quickly after an event, we had an example. Here's 9/11, we had an event. Unfortunately, our videographer came down with the flu. As you probably know, as soon as you have an event, it's great to have the event, the trailer, the event itself, if people want to see the full event replay online as quickly as possible. But then there was a delay. We're just getting our follow-up out now. and it's already October. If we can have more hands on deck to attack this issue, we could get things out quicker to the public when prescient compared to downstream. There are a whole host of reasons why it would be beneficial if we could speed up the process.
Yes, and it might not even involve more. So that's what we're hoping to eliminate, is the even need for more hands on deck. We have a number of tools that work very well for conferences, and I don't know if you have like multiple people speaking, or Quincy, what do you think? Just like, like if it's we'd have to see an example. We'd have to understand like the context. Is it one long video? Is it split into multiple people? Do you want to have the videos split up by who's speaking? Do you want to have it split up by not just cut out all the dead air and all that stuff, but do you want to separate it into 10 or 20-minute segments based on who the speaker was, and each one of those gets their own video uploaded to YouTube? Or do you want one long video that's chaptered for YouTube that has all those segments in it? TimeBolt can do all of those things. It can chop stuff up, combine stuff, and it's about getting how long that video is and cutting out the stuff that makes it not watchable.
That would be spectacular. And also to be able to create shorts that are vertical, that we could pop into Instagram. We started doing some of that in advance of our 9/11 event, because we've had 9/11 events. So we created shorts from prior 9/11 events. That was helpful. There are a whole host of things. A quick comment. In April, for the first time, I said, look, guys, we've really got to get our arms around this Facebook thing. And Instagram. I had a high school student go create, film people. I currently now live in Texas, but my foundation's on the West Coast. I'm in Austin. So I had this high school student who knows a little bit about videography film our former Assistant Secretary of the Army and a few other people that are on our team about their backgrounds. Well, we took those little videos and vignettes and we stuck them onto Facebook. And our Facebook, they're all Vietnam veterans. We use the Vietnam Day is March 29th. We did a campaign around Vietnam, and our Facebook, cost of click was something like down to 7 and even 4 cents a minute. 4 cents a click. And we were able to move, not quite double, but probably increased our following by 40%. That really works. These little videos work. And I'm now a believer that the more we could do with telling people's story, the better it is for our success as a venture. And we're 100% volunteer. And we have a small team. We're probably 10 to 15 strong. Some are doers and some are watchers, admittedly. That's what you find in every nonprofit. We don't have a stick, we have a carrot to motivate. But to the extent that we can get the word out more and more, I think we'll be able to be more successful. Excellent. We have a great start. We have a great venue. We just need to get the word out more.
Well, the good news is you have found the fastest video editing software on planet Earth. Out of all the AI that you've seen, I'll challenge anyone to a head-to-head competition and come out 2 to 3x ahead of time. That's something that we're not just shrill hey, use TimeBolt. We use TimeBolt because it's the fastest. If there was some other tool like TimeBolt, if I was a competitor, I'd use TimeBolt because I have to make so much video. Why would I take 3 times as long? And if you don't, it shows. You can go look at some of our competitors. There's a reason why with their office hours, they don't even cut their stuff up. How could you have a removing dead, all this air check and remove dead air and all these things, and then just have a raw video that you're uploading to YouTube, right? That's because it still takes you too long in your own software.
It takes a lot of time
to do what needs to be done.
And that's costly, right?
It is. Yeah. And it costs, and there's a back end cost when your cost per view, right? Your cost per click, that can impact that substantially. How far along are you in learning TimeBolt? Did you watch any of the videos? Did you
I did. And then I was playing with it and I talked to our videographer and I said, hey, listen, why don't we use TimeBolt? Have you ever played with it? Have you ever used it? Had not. Now his background is Berkeley, taught at Berkeley. The guy's a brilliant man, right? For 25 years. And videography is kind of his second career. And he does beautiful work from his website. And I just received the 2 trailers and I've been playing with those, with putting the full event on the back end of the trailers and subscribe now. I learned how to do that the other day.
You've got a main video timeline, right? You've got a long one, a longer, and then you want to sandwich them with an intro and outro video that are pre-produced.
Okay.
Here, I don't have an event that has I only have my pitch video from this recent pitch event, Startup World Cup. We can just drop your file into any part of TimeBolt. But they recorded it odd. Obviously recording is important here. It's going to generate a preview. They recorded this with the MKV Quinson at 720p. They had the best multicam setup. Okay. It was beautiful. They could have recorded in 8K. In my final video, after I built the whole thing around I look and it's a 720p file. I was like, dude, how's it possible? What happens is like with events, okay, you're going to have speaking and that type of stuff. What I would do is like, if it's a video commentary, like where it's you and I talking, maybe we have a Zoom or you're interviewing somebody or it's just them talking to a camera, maybe you're just interviewing them or something, you're going to want to keep these settings are just about right. Okay. Pretty much every time. If you want to capture more or less audio, you mess with the filter below sound level. If there's any audio that you're seeing that's getting cut off, like the first thing you do is going to scroll down your timeline. See, like right here, I'm going to go ahead. I'd want this to be detected audio, okay? Because we're in an auditorium, right? So like you're not going to have like perfectly clean audios. What I'm going to do is I test a filter below level between -30 to -42 dB. So I'm going to let's just see what happens at -35 at 5 minutes, 55 seconds.
We have two negatives.
Oh shit, sorry. Because I checked that, I put that at -35, you can see, and that was like clapping, right? So now you can see the timeline is much more cut up. Okay, but it's not cutting into words. It's just like, do you see how that like all of these are like transitions for like when I switch a slot, and that's just people laughing that because it's not directly coming through the mic. If I wanted to try and get that even more, I could try like -33. I think I'm okay with -35 with the way it is. See how that happened? That's beautiful. That just cut out that piece without impacting the main audio. Look.
The way you can think about it is the larger the value is, if it's -35, -40, it's going to have more green parts. And if you make it towards 0 more, it's going to have more red parts.
-30 to -42 dB. None of this now is not cutting into my audio. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that it's not cutting in your audio before you do anything else. You want to get your automations done, because once your automations are done, you're going to go in and start cutting up the work. And if you're like, oh, wait, my dB level's wrong, and you update it, it's going to erase all the work that you did, right? So get your auto, and the two automations are the silence detection, and that's controlled by this, nothing else. Okay, you can learn how to do this stuff later, but you don't do anything with this. And then
keep the padding at the same.
Exactly, keep the padding here the same. You won't have to worry about that. We could talk.
Is that okay? Is that what you said online though? Was it 0.01 or 0.05 for something?
0.01. This comes default. And then if you don't remember what your default values are, reset to default right here. Every single one of these buttons Quinston has in here does something important.
I like the fact that you guys have these question marks and little, that's brilliant. And it makes it right after with each field. Keep doing that.
We add some really important features as we kind of go through this, and it's about marketing playing catch up and getting this stuff recompiled, because some of them have to do with entire workflows. Not just like these are individuals. We have whole workflows built up now with like some of our other features over here on the left. You get your automations done. Let's say you're doing a back and forth conference. It's unscripted, so you get a lot of ums and ahs. Right, like, and you want to remove those, or even if it's just an interview style, you hit check. I'm not going to have ums and ahs. Well, actually, I will, because I think I'm checking.
I actually only had one. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was surprised.
Nice. There's one feature in which I think would be useful. So sometimes what happens is with TimeBolt, we have two layers of cuts, right? We have the base cut, which is the silence detection part, and then we have that comes on top of the base layer. One feature with UmCheck is called remove non-human sound. Any sound which is not text or words can also be removed with UmCheck.
If you take a ride with the Blue Angels and you're sitting there talking and you're talking in your mic, you got all that jet noise going on, right?
Sure.
You can cut, not that you would want to cut out the ride with just keep all that in, okay? Do not ever touch a ride with the F-16 or the Blue Angels or TimeBolt. It's against the law. But like what Quincy was saying was the clapping. If there's a whole lot of it, you need just the meat of the content. That would definitely work.
That's interesting. I was trying to figure we have some background noise in one of our videos that I'd like to yank out. Am I saying your name right properly?
Quinston.
Quinston. Okay, thank you. I was wondering if the S was silent or you speak it. Thank you. Quinston.
It's like Winston with a Q.
That's a great name, by the way. I could see that logo. Question for you is that option. Where does that option exist?
Right. It's at the bottom there.
Oh.
Remove non-human sound clips from timeline. At the bottom below the turn off selected words button.
Oh, there
it's
it is.
Hidden.
Okay.
It's a little hidden because we don't want people to press it unintentionally.
Sure.
It needs to be the use of that button is very purposeful. Yeah, because if you press it accidentally, you might kind of mess up your timeline.
But if you have a piece where I guess you could create a clip, right? I have a section of a video where there's some background noise with the stage being removed. If I have that clip, then I can run that on that specific clip and then stick it back in.
No, you don't have to. When you press that button, it applies it throughout the entire video.
I know. But if I want other sound in the video,
you can just edit the timeline. You can click that button, go to that spot, press we haven't discussed the keyboard shortcuts yet, but with TimeBolt, you can actually manipulate the timeline. You can keep parts you want, bring back parts that have already been removed, combine parts which are essential. Doug will get to that part. Right now what we're doing is we're making sure our timeline is ready to be edited. So you want to do the sound detection part, you want to do uncheck. All of those things are preloaded. Like those are the first things you do. You don't want to start editing or at least auditing the video. Editing is very hands-on. We like to call it auditing the video because you're just making sure the cuts that you want to keep are kept and the cuts that you don't want are removed. That's the choice you make when you go to the timeline. But first you run the automations. Just click the button. Just click the button.
I'll just do this one. Let's see, non-human sound.
Got it.
Transcripts are not very accurate, by the way.
This didn't work. I wouldn't do it. Well, I'm just saying, let's see. I can't get out of that now.
Just reset it. I don't know what's wrong.
Reset.
Command Z is not working?
No.
Let me reset it then. Update sound detection and then.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Just click on update sound detection and it's done.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's not that it didn't work. That's not the proper, like I would have montages and stuff going on, even with claps. This is what I'm saying. That was more for like, if you're given a vlog inside of a Porsche, right? And you got a moto vlog, or if you're flying in a plane, or if you're giving an interview in front of a jet airplane, like that's the only time. Like if you have a constant hum in the background that just kind of, and even hums we can still buzz through, but that's kind of what that's for. We're going to turn off selected words.
The transcript is too aggressive.
Okay. Start audio transcription. I just reloaded that JSON file. It's the exact same. Oh, I see. Look, that's because TimeBolt was said a bunch of times in a row, and we have repeat checker on.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's why I was like,
wait, what? TimeBolt. Oh, the TimeBolt. That video is a montage of TimeBolt.
It really works, dude.
That is like unexpected.
Why
is?
That's how many people like us. That's how you do on that. Let's just move on to the next. Let's move on to this next thing. They provided this. What I'm going to show you is you have to, after you got all your automations run, sound detection check, the first thing you're going to do is put this at 1.5x speed, preview playback rate. Okay. You are just going to have to trust the process and don't worry about clicking around on things. Hit spacebar. Okay. You hit spacebar after you click into the timeline and you start watching very quickly. You're going to be previewing at 1.5x speed because it's going to be, that's what we set it up to. There's no reason to ever watch this at 1x. Okay. What I do with these types of conferences, okay, here, what I do with these types of conferences, I would put this, okay, at 1 second. Even kind of 0.5 seconds is still kind of aggressive for a conference. Put this at like 1 second.
Oh, 1 second.
Because you're not like jump cutting like commentary. It's more like a natural, you don't want big gaps of time. Like if you're like, okay, here, let me do it. Sound check. One. But I'm saying like there's going to be natural lengthy pauses in a live event. And if you keep it at like 1 second for those and at 0.5 for all your video content, like where you're kind of going back and forth, you'll just have a more natural flow to this type of content, right? But as you can see, the big chunks are removed. And what are the big chunks? It's typically right when I'm transitioning slides, right? Every time I transition slides, that is watchable content. That is the settings that I would use. Now it's at this point, you should know that SOB, okay, let's just like, this is a highly choreographed presentation that I gave. Okay, there's not too many mistakes or stuff like that or like drops, but this is how you cut up a timeline, okay? You hit S to split a timeline. As you're going through, let's say I want to cut that out. I hit S and that, you see that split it makes right there? And let's say I wanted to do something after scene, I click another S and now you see there's two splits and now it's called SOB, okay? I'm not calling you that. It's just the name of the thing. S splits the play. O turns scenes on or off, and B back cuts. So now, if I wanted to remove, I haven't touched anything, okay? After I clicked S, if I wanted to remove what was behind the last S, I would hit B. Look, boom. You see that? I'm going to Command Z, which undoes that. If I wanted to remove all the stuff ahead of it, I would click O. Look, watch this. I click O, shuts off the whole scene. Like I could go O. Like if you don't like something, you press the O key and that whole thing just is shut off and it jumps to the next scene. When you hear a clap or when you hear something that you don't want, or like you hear audio from the natural, like just like, because now imagine like, let's say I get up to this part right here and I don't start talking until here. Okay. Like let's say I've recorded 5 minutes of crap before that. What am I going to do to get rid of all the stuff before it? What do you think? What key?
Oh, everything up until the split?
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, but first you have to split it, right? Don't you have to?
All split, but I'm saying
it's all split. Okay.
Let's say you recorded, there's 5 minutes of talking, banter, getting set up, people sitting on the chairs, and then the guy starts talking, right? You don't want to go through the 5 minutes and go ding,
that's
ding.
your Command O for off. And you take that.
Close. That's this is B to back cut. So if I just hold down the B key, okay, watch this. I just hold down B and it just back cut all of that.
From that point back. I see. Okay. I haven't, that's a new term for me. Got it. Yeah. Going back to the O thing, the O will just allow you to continue to cut from that point forward. But if I want to go all the way to the beginning, I use O is an amazing key until you learn what B does. Okay.
Like, because this is the thing, I want you to notice, if let's say I'm going through this and I'm listening, I get to this part and I realize, okay, this all was like a repeat or like I talk a word here and then let's say I repeat it over here. Well, I would have to stop the playhead now, go back and do something like this. And instead, I'm just going to watch this through watch. I'm like, oh, I restarted. Boom. See that? Like, I didn't even have to stop the playhead. Like,
right.
You just, that's the key. It's like SOB with your thing. You're just going through and Gensuing up stuff that already exists. Like I tell you how to split the playhead, like you're not going to use it that much because your timeline's already all cut up, right? Like unless you need to cut something out of the middle or there's some other thing. Most of the time, how you speak is in chunks and the ends and that random stuff typically gets caught by this ignore detection shorter than. If this was an unscripted video for mic strikes, coughs, as opposed to that cough showing up, like we have it set to where if any sound is less than 0.75 seconds long, do not change that value. It's the best value you could possibly ever get. It automatically removes it. So you're not having to remove little, and then it'll re-chunk up your sound. So you're not having to, you don't have 1,000 little cuts of a bunch of little crap that you then need to go back. And the logic of how we re-chunk this stuff really makes it easy to turn scenes on or off. There's a lot of logic that goes into these individual settings. Keep that to where it is and it'll catch, like you'll be like, well, I'm looking through my timeline and why is, I don't have any of these instances, maybe until I talk. Just because this is scripted. But if you'll see, like, sometimes you'll like open your timeline and it'll be something like this. And you'd be like, well, wait a second. Why is there a sound there? Oh, there's obviously a sound there. That's what this is. Remove. And then when you're like, well, what is that sound? It will probably be a or an or a random
or like a mic strike
knock or a kick in a table or something. And you're like, oh, I actually don't need that. And that's what that's for.
Okay.
Catch random stuff.
Detections shorter than 0.75.
Yeah, just leave it. Just you won't even notice it. I'm just saying when you're going through your timeline, you're first trying to set up the automations and you're like, why is there, this is clearly a sound. And people are like, I thought, why is it collect? It's because of this. And it almost 95% of the time is going to be something entirely worthless.
Okay.
It'll be like a mic strike or a cough or a sneeze or something like that.
Okay.
But that's why that exists.
Got it.
If you do forget about the keyboard shortcuts, there's a key in the top right corner, which will show you the keyboard shortcuts.
SOB, spacebar SOB.
I saw that. Actually,
yeah,
but this is a great. This looks like a great tool, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Your target market should be nonprofits because nonprofits want to avoid cost, and therefore, if we can take raw video from a videographer, cut out what we don't want, and then hand it back and say, okay, now edit this, that will reduce our expense.
It's not much money in nonprofits because we're all kind of like a sucker for. You
Yeah,
find us great because we're not going after government grants. So I'm not like some disenfranchised founder that's getting. We've been bootstrapped. I sold cars for Jim Butler Kia to do this on the side. We got everything riding on it for sure. There's now know how to cut up a timeline. SOB, like for example, I just used S here because look, there you got a girl talking here, right? See, I really like that. She smiled at me. She said, "Nice presentation. I want to keep that." I hit another S. What I'd like to do here, so she just got ready. I hit the B key to back cut that. But what I want to do, I want to focus in on her. You can do a thing called punch. You hit the P key and your option or alt and the arrow keys and it will punch in. And now all that didn't even need to be seen. Then it just jumps right to the nice presentation and it zeroes in on her. And then it jumps back out because the punch value is relegated between here and where that split value is, right? That's how you kind of punch back and forth.
And that's a good way to handle the transitions, I think you were saying in one of your videos.
Well, it is a transitionary. It's showing people where to focus, right? But it's not like a fade or something like that. It's jumping in and out of a scene, showing people where to focus. If you want to add transitions and stuff like that, where like you get like a really nice smooth fade, we recommend going into a different software. It's kind of a different, you start to learn about TimeBolt in like chunks. Like you got this, it would take probably about an hour. The good news, it would take an hour to learn TimeBolt, like from through and through, but it'll take you 3 or 4 weekends locked in a room to try and figure out what AI is and won't do for you, and then be disappointed and still spend up so much time that you don't make video in the first place. That's kind of the benefit of just kind of learning this. So you got punch, fast forward, okay? Fast forward silences. When your goal is to show, not tell, I don't need to fast forward anything in here, okay? I don't even have an example, but like, you don't need to like just entirely remove time either. Let's say you didn't want to jump cut. Let's say you're like, I don't want to jump cut at all. Yeah. I could just go like this. Okay. And that's the only time I'm going to use the mouse. Okay. Do not get, because if you just learn those 3 SOB and little space bar keys, like everything will fall into place. Don't mess with the mouse. I fast forwarded that. So now I could increase the speed rate by up to 4x speed.
I saw that. Yep.
And if I'm doing like action footage or something like that, this is the only time you can add time into TimeBolt. The only time you ever add anything new into TimeBolt is this 0.5x. I can actually decrease like slow-mo stuff, right? Like if my dog's going up to catch a Frisbee or something like that, I can slow-mo that time.
Got it.
but that is your speed rate. You can mute it or not mute it. I wouldn't even mess with any of these sections right now. Okay. They do have like little how to do things. I wouldn't even worry about automating that stuff right now. Okay. You can automate it. I could say, hey, any silence less than that 1 second, okay, increased by 4x. And now when I go up here, I don't know if see like right here, and this is a silence that was less than a second, it would have just sped it up. It's kind of how to automate.
Yeah, what would you recommend for that? Because what I first did is I played with this and I found I had a lot of cuts. Maybe I had the settings incorrect, but then I discovered that I could speed things up. But rather than cut things out, I decided, all right, I'm going to convert all the reds to orange. I'll put it on I'll see if I could speed up that time so that you still see the footage, but therefore you have less transition issues to worry about.
I don't think people, you just saw that. Like, I bet you spent a long time going in and clicking some buttons above the playhead, right? And look what I just did, right? I did all that I put fast forward any silences less than 1 second. We have it at 9, but it doesn't do any of that right now, right? There's no automatic way, but I don't know. I think it may look like a lot of cuts to you, like when you're looking at the timeline, but when it comes out and you're using punch effects and stuff,
it doesn't look like a lot of cuts.
No.
I was worried about that.
Yeah, don't worry about what your timeline looks like up here. Okay. Because like it may look atrocious, but it's in real life, it's just a nice jump cut. You're not wasting any time. People know that you value their time by not wasting theirs, right? You got the fast forward, you know how to do punch, fast forward, right? I can punch around. It saves the previous punch values. So if I wanted to go here and I wanted to get like this, I wanted to maintain that frame, and it'll maintain the next punch value. That like if you have multiple cuts made, you don't have to go and hit Alt Enter each time and reposition it. You remembers your last position. Okay. It remembers your last position, but to get out of it, what you do is you just click it again and it recycles through and resets. Right. So you can now set a new
when you
position.
say click it again, click P or
yes, ma'am. That's exactly it. So now this is kind of the cool thing. If you're going to there's two different scenarios. One scenario is this is the only video you need. Okay. One scenario is this is the only video that you need, and you don't need to add an intro and outro. Actually, markers. Last thing, when you're editing, when you're going through your timeline, you should only have to watch this thing once. Okay. And I made a shorts video out of this particular deal. I'm trying to find.
Can I say one thing before we get to that? You just talked about fast forwarding these short clips between the green parts, between your big chunky sentences. I would not recommend doing that simply because if when you watch the video again, after every sentence there's like a fast forward. After every sentence there's like a fast forward.
Yeah.
Jump cuts are ubiquitous in YouTube nowadays. Every video that you see online has a jump cut. Fast forward is specifically meant only for those situations where you want to show, not tell, for example. Like you are writing something on the screen and you want it to go fast because you don't want to spend the time watching somebody write something on a screen. Yeah. Fast forward is very specific to those sort of situations.
Okay.
It will look very out of place if you use it on every cut.
Appreciate that.
Well, let me see. I just have a really hard time searching. This is what my timeline looked like this is like the finished edit of this longer video that I put on. As you can see here, you're going to see like, what is this? I added markers. As you're going through, the last thing that you can do, how you had said, how do we take a 10-minute video and break it down into a 1-minute short, right? You now have 2 different videos that you need to make. And one of them is a short that is just a highlighted scenes, or maybe you want to add or create like a coming up or a preview of like what's in this long video, like some of the longer form YouTubes have, or you want to make a short. The last important tool to remember is a thing called markers. As I go through, I hear something important. I just click M, okay? To add a marker. And that's another reason you might want to use the split, because now you may have something very important that was said in the middle of a sentence. Use the S key to split that out, add your marker. But the goal is that like you're watching your video once and you can do all of these enhancements at the first time you're watching. Do I want to cut it, keep it, mark it, highlight it, punch in, fast forward it, but or categorize it for YouTube, right? I could say I right click and I type in, this is chapter 1. Okay, these are all different effects. I could categorize that for YouTube. I just didn't use YouTube things here. And maybe I'd say this is chapter 2, and just for fixing it. And as I went through, I added my markers about the key points, like everything that you like that went into our short. And now theoretically, and it's not theory, like you get done with your timeline at the very end here, right? You can even see, hell, I even have a marker here, because who doesn't want to show themselves being clapped for in an audience? And so now you're done with your timeline. Now it comes down time to do 2 things. One, you want to save your cuts. Okay, you hit save timeline cuts, and that'll just save it. It'll put it in the same folders you have. Okay, that way you've just got your project saved. There's no point in not saving your project. And now what I want to do is keep only mark cuts, okay, which is these markers, right? What
Okay.
happens is I hit keep only mark cuts. I hit shift and the down arrow key, okay, to get to the start of the timeline. So now shift and the down arrow key. So now what I can do is I can go through and just preview the mark cuts.
Got it.
Like, check this out.
And you still have your project. Huh?
What this has done, now I can look at, if you look right here, I just have this output and this mark duration is at 1 minute and 5 seconds. I know that of all my markers, I have a 1 minute and 5 seconds worth of content. It's at this point, you can either save a JSON. Here, I'll save timeline cuts again. Okay. And I could go here and save this as wherever it's saved. Like I go in here and I basically rename this to markers. Okay. Because let me tell you why you would want to do this. So that's my markers. Exactly. And this is my timeline. Let's say I want to give this to a contractor, right? You give him the JSON files and the main file, and he just applies those in. He's able to go in and, I guess you would need XML for that, right? But not the JSON files. You would actually save this as an XML. If you were giving this to a designer that was doing something in Final Cut Pro, okay, there's like different ways to export, but like you could give them XML files and they would just literally open up the XML and they would have the raw file and all the cuts would be made. It would just be those particular segments that you wanted to keep. Okay. You can save it as a JSON. That is that you can kind of save your project. I can then go now and use that JSON as the movie trailer. Okay. As you had put, or I could go down and hit activate turbo mode because I'm still keep only mark cuts. And now what I want to do, who doesn't want to talk 12% faster? But if I'm doing this for shorts, the thing is 1 minute and 5 seconds. I can't have it at 1 minute and 5 seconds. I need 60 seconds. I put 60 right here. Okay. And what that will do is increase the entire rate of speech of all the clips by 0.84, like 8%. You'll just talk 8% faster without sounding like a chipmunk. And now all of a sudden you're able to keep and maintain your original file. If you were going to do this for shorts, okay, this is where you would go export clips to a folder. And what it will do is select folder. What it's going to do is it's going to go through and cut up all of those clips, okay, into all the speed, all the punch values, everything is all baked into those clips. And it's going to render each cut as an individual clip. Okay.
It will. Oh, wonderful.
See all these right here?
Yes,
it'll render each cut as an individual clip. And then what I do is then you'll see this is what the base foundation of CapCut is, right? Like if I have to make a short out of this content, I know go to CapCut, open it up. I would just do a new project and import shorts example. All of these are already in sequential order. And I just take this, drag it down. And now I have my 60-second timeline, exactly 60 seconds. Okay. My 60-second timeline and all of the clips are now cut up. Now it becomes extremely easy to either resize this to a specific size. It's to do everything, right? Now you can go in here, add effects, because now you have everything. It's just kind of like
cut up, right?
Timeline is entirely cut up for
effects between.
And it's really becomes easy now to go in, and you can do this for free. Okay, inside CapCut, I can go in and do auto captions. And when your timeline's all cut up and the 35% of noise, non-human sound is gone, all of a sudden your captions become much more accurate. See how they see like right here? So now I could just literally go into one of these things and apply to all and mess with the size and the freaking scale and all that stuff, right?
Can you show her how to convert this into like a vertical video inside CapCut?
Sure. Inside CapCut,
there's a ratio under the preview.
Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry. There we go. But now you could go in and do like a 9:16. Okay. And you could then like bulk select these if you wanted to and scale them up. Right. But you can see that that's now a vertical video. But if and that's the thing, you could keep a vertical video. Obviously, it's cutting. You're figuring out what section of a 16:9 you want to keep. But you can either keep it like this and fill up the bottom here with something, maybe add some design up top, or you can like go frame by frame and put in whatever was the most important thing to be looking at in that frame through CapCut and drop. Now, see, the thing is like your timeline's all cut up. So now you're not dealing with like, where does this thing start? Where does it end? Where does this idea start? Where does it, you've got your transition, like everything that you need is now here because you can just drop your stuff in.
So the workflow is that you're using TimeBolt to make the cuts, audit the cuts, manipulate the timeline. And once you are done with the cuts, you can just bring it into CapCut and you can add your captions, add your transitions, scale it up, make it vertical, and do all the rest of the things that you need to finish the video.
That's great. That's great.
You could give that. This is about how you work with your editor, right? Like the point is you're going to be like, I'm either going to give you an XML file of all this stuff cut up and where I want the shorts to be, or you're going to tell me, hey, I'm doing this in CapCut and I'd like it to be exported as clips just like you did and send me the clips as well. But you'll be able to really get the meat of what needs to be done because it's so easy to design what you want to keep. Right.
I'm not familiar with all the tools. DaVinci? Is there a different file format other than for Final Cut Pro? You said you use XML. Okay, XML also.
We've got great help section as far as like what the export functions are for, like if your editor like say, hey, look, these are the export functions of TimeBolt. This is their help. Tell me how you want the file, right? And they'll know if they're using Premiere or Final Cut Pro. Typically, it's just going to be XML.
Right. Got it. Okay, good.
So now, okay, I'm still in my shorts. I'm going to hit Command Z. Okay, don't do any editing once you've done looking at only markers. Okay, if you need to add a marker, remove a marker, you've got to get out of this. It's not like a mode. Okay, you got to get out of this before you do it. So you hit Command Z to get out of keep only mark cuts. It's kind of like the inside knowledge. It's it's something you're going to have to be told. You have to hit Command Z to get out of that. So now, if I wanted to remove a marker, let's say I didn't actually want to keep this one, I just hit M, and you go through the same process again. Keep only mark cuts, right? But now that's no longer there, and then you save it down. That's how you like add or remove. If I wanted to remove this one, I would not do it. I wouldn't just go here. You could, okay? But the problem is it's not going to work properly for you, because now when you have to go back, it'll still be there. Get out of keep only mark cuts before you add or remove markers to make edits.
Oh, I see.
Like you got to hit Command Z. Like here, I can edit it because I'm in the main thing, right? I can remove it. But if I'm like keep only mark cuts, and I'm like, I actually don't want that section, you want to hit Command Z to get out of that. Hit
and then back to your original project timeline. Exactly. So then you can do some other editing.
So
and
now,
if you want to get rid of your stars or your chapters, right click. Okay.
Right click, remove the chapter.
You just remove the text and the chapter disappears. Chapters are the only thing that you're going to like get on your keyboard and like right click. Okay. So now this is the thing, is like, so now I've got all my timelines saved. I've got my markers saved. Hell, what if I just wanted to, I don't need them for shorts. I wanted to make like a coming up. Now, before I render anything, I don't even have to render anything right now. What I do is I go to Stitch.
Okay.
Stitch is an incredibly powerful companion app for TimeBolt. What we're going to do is you're going to add in your main video file
from your project.
The main video file that you worked on, in TimeBolt. Okay. We haven't rendered those cuts. When I say rendered, it hasn't gone through, or you haven't had to wait to do all that. So this is my main video file. Let's say I want to have the first part is like what's coming up. I'm going to apply the JSON file that I made. Remember the markers? I apply this. The JSON file contains all the cuts. That JSON file is now applied to my main timeline. And I'll show you what happens here in a second. The next one I go to, I want to have my main timeline. I hit add clip. I then add my main timeline, that main video, the unedited video, and I apply my main timeline JSON files. I've got two different JSON files applied. Let's say I wanted to add an outro. This could be one of your outro videos, or one of your pre-produced clips that this guy makes. Like mine is ending video. Okay. I can just add that. This is where we're going to look at once we apply a JSON file, right? We're going to be able to look at that once we apply a JSON file. It looks at the first cut.
The problem with this is that this is an MKV, right? It's not a...
Oh, no, this is an MOV. I remastered it and all that stuff.
Okay.
This is more, I'm talking more about like, because this is kind of the thing, is like, I've just got two similar looking files, even though one of them has entirely different cuts, right? Right here, how to look at this, you can just preview it. Oh shit, I guess.
The encoding of this video is an issue.
Yeah, the encoding is, this is the only video I've ever had an issue with, and I've done this multiple times. What you're going to see.
The function of split, the function of Stitch, basically what you're doing is you're taking your various projects, right? Multiple projects. Am I getting this? You might have, for instance, all your cuts for shorts. You stick those together. Now you have potentially a trailer. You might have your original project as video 2, and maybe something at the wrap up at the end.
Correct.
And then you can stitch those all together.
Correct.
I would normally use iMovie for that. What you're telling me is I don't have to move this into iMovie. You could stitch these all together. Somebody could see the trailer, the full event, and then the back end.
That's exactly.
Is that what that function is?
Yes.
If you have to take a video from TimeBolt into iMovie, you have to render it first, right? Because you have to make sure that video is generated from TimeBolt, rendered from TimeBolt. With Stitch, you can use the JSON, and you only have to render the whole video along with the short part and the trailer part once, because you don't need to render the video from the main TimeBolt project file. You have to just add the JSON text file, which was generated as the project file, the saved project file, directly into Stitch. You only have to render it once at the end.
So your JSON file essentially has all your directions.
Exactly.
It's cut instructions.
Right? So that was a new term until I started studying your software the other day. If I have take me through how you connect the JSON file to the
project file and JSON file. Yeah, you might use the same project file for all three. Like it just depends on how many ways you want to cut up the video. I use the same project file because for both markers, which is right here, and my main timeline. All I'd have to do is go here and hit apply JSON file. I would put in my markers JSON. It's the cut instructions for what's markers, right? Just like you said. And when I play this on almost all other files, you're going to see only the cuts played in the preview. That you have the same JSON. Over here is my main timeline, right?
Right.
My main timeline.
And you use a different JSON file for that.
Right. Exactly. That was the one we saved at the end that I was like, and I renamed it. And the reason I renamed it to main timeline and then markers is so that when I did this part, I knew which timeline I was applying at what time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then I go over here and I added this outro. And now you've got blocks. Like, your project is in these blocks and you haven't had to render anything yet. That is a big plus. And now what I want to do is I go through with each one of these because they're each individual sections. And now I've got another couple other things. Like I don't want any chapter markers in my markers text file, like in my markers. Okay. Because it's the preview files. So I hit clear chapters. Okay. From this first one, I do want my chapters in my main timeline. I leave that alone. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I could do to this is I can hit activate turbo mode. Okay. For each one of these, I highly recommend if you're going to speed it up by 12%, you're going to want to speed up the front part by 12% as well. Okay. The marker, you hit activate turbo mode and you apply this effect to each one. Activate to 1.125. You're going to be speaking 12% faster. I go to the next one and I hit activate turbo mode. 1.125, apply. Now, when it comes to this ending, it's excruciatingly slow. Okay. It's excruciating. What I do is I also activate turbo mode on this. I put freaking this on 2x. You can go up to 2x. Okay. And that'll just, all three of these could have different turbo modes applied, different effects applied, all that stuff. Right. Now I want to take this and combine it all into a single video that I'm going to upload to YouTube. Right. That's kind of like, I hit export video. You could add your logo, top left, top right, puts a logo. You might want to do that because I don't know, like because you're a nonprofit or whatnot, but if you don't, no big deal. Here is where I can then say, I want this at 4K, 30 frames per second. Okay. To find out, there was somebody that had a question before, to find out what your video is, do something like this. On Mac, I hit Command I, and when you hit Command I, this box pops up and I look at the video details and I can see that it's encoded at 24 frames per second, right? So now I could say, okay, my main file was encoded at 24 frames per second. I just want to keep the same type of frame rate. I don't know if it even does anything, but that's how you are able to tell, right? How many frames per second, just by looking at your source file. And now what I do right before I hit export, see these little three buttons? Don't ever forget, click around, look at the buttons because they all mean something. Right here, you hit those little three buttons. I can download chapters text file. But what's cool about this is that you might have an hour-long video. You added your intro and outro at that, and then you got all these cuts. TimeBolt is now going to go in and accurately see how much time was added in front, where the cuts happen. It does all the math for you. So now just hit save. But these, you can now just copy and paste this right into the description of YouTube. Okay. With all of even before you're having to do all this stuff. And now all of your chapters are correctly marked at the right spot, even though you've added any number of videos before and after the main timeline, right? All that math is done for you. That alone saves you the time of having to rewatch your video again. And that's a huge time saver. But I'm saying, you copy and you paste this right into the description of YouTube, and that's what I'm saying with chapter markers. I do. You get that done before you hit name your output and hit render. Then you just go walk the dog and spend time with the family, knock out some dishes. And then by the time you come back, I have a Mac M3. As these computers get faster, this gets faster. But by the time you get back, you've got a fully watchable video that you can now upload to YouTube on your own. With
3 combined into 1.
Yeah, and you got the cool, the first part, the highlights all set up in front.
Highlights and then the event and then
main event, then your closing outro. That's how you can use TimeBolt to entirely cut up one long video, turn it into shorts. And then I think what is best for you is if you begin to do these things and then join us again next week, after you've had a chance to talk with your editor and figure out what their workflow is and what they're looking for. I'm going to post this probably on YouTube.
Good.
And then that way you've got it for
your videos are helpful.
Awesome.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
It seems like a big task but you can just solve so many problems with one software. The last piece, I can even go back into TimeBolt. This is a separate function within TimeBolt. Don't forget to be looking at how to capture and record video. Okay. If you're going to get into video and you're doing video, I swear, once you can chop your stuff up and be watchable faster than it takes you to record live, you start using it to communicate. Why write a 5-paragraph email when you can make a video? Because when you send that video, it's not going to suck to watch. That's the problem. You send a Loom, Like, oh,
Right.
I'd say I made you a video. Well, that's great. I'm gonna have to sit through 5.5 minutes of dead air and you on trying to think that, like, and then you don't want to send that. You don't want to like annoy people, right? So this is the video communication problem for internal video as well. So if you have creative feedback that you want to give, just hit the capture, do standard, quick, and small. You can also record in high quality. You can make content this way. You hit start recording. It auto pushes into TimeBolt. You can send a banger, which is an unlisted link. You don't even have, like, let's say you didn't, like, you had to like send it in an email or something like that. You could click this button. I'd always do turbo mode. Okay. Never, ever don't use turbo mode if you're rendering in time. Like, seriously,
I was impressed that you guys had this without turning a voice into chipmunk sounds. But I couldn't, I was at the point where I was trying to figure out how to make that work, because there is a video where I definitely want, and it's me actually, where I want to use turbo.
Yeah,
that's the whole video.
That's the advantage of rendering inside TimeBolt, right? And not using XML and all that type of stuff. That's the advantage of rendering in TimeBolt. You can bake speed in without sounding like a chipmunk. I call it voodoo magic because I don't know how Quinston does it. He's explained it to me 1,000 times, but it's none of the other software turns you into chipmunk. You try it.
It's amazing.
TimeBolt, you're not going to watch our videos at 2x speed in YouTube, right? Like,
so
it's already fast.
I'll give you I asked my videographer, who's really professional. I said, "Did you guys use TimeBolt?" I said, "Can you speed up some of the?" He said, "Ellen, there's nothing out there that does that." I said, "Well, I think there is something out there that does that." And he said, "But then you're going to sound like a chipmunk." I said, "No, I understand that it won't do that. That you might be able to find that you sell this thing just on that capability."
Yes,
that was this guy's perspective,
and that's why I don't want to know how we do it.
No, keep that. That's your Coca-Cola sauce. Do not tell people how you do. That is really, if you do that,
don't change the pitch or something.
Do not tell people your formula.
No, that's how you can use TimeBolt to actually record video. And then this is also a multifunctional tool. Okay. Like I said, everything does things. Let's see.
It's really impressive.
No, I can't do this while this is open. There's these tools. See this little thing called tools up here? And these tools, you have a thing called reencoder. Imagine your editor sends you an MOV file from their Premiere and 600 megabits and it's a 2-minute video, right? And you're like, holy shit, I got to put this on my website, right? Or what you can do is you just run the reencoder tool with TimeBolt. It'll change an MOV to MP4 and it will render in good quality. You're not like but the file size will be manageable, right? You can re-encode your video. For example, you got this MOV 600 megabits and you don't even want the audio because you got to make a GIF for your website, right? You re-encode it with TimeBolt. Now all of a sudden it's down to 40 megs, not 600.
I got it.
Right. And then you've got a file that you could upload to like Easy GIF Maker or whatnot that is under 100 megabits that you can make your files, your GIF image with and upload it to your website, right? There's just an incredible amount of tools. That reencoder tool is definitely one that I use constantly. Capture, like what I was showing you, it's also not just about like your face. You can go full screen, start talking, and then when you stop talking, you can really switch scenes. And one of our next priorities is working on being able to capture a vertical area within video. I would like to give a shout out to Vendy's video here real quick. Just so
that would be
this is what she teaches. It's not because we're paying her to do this. It's because TimeBolt is the fastest at taking a vertical video, cutting it up into just the usable parts. And then what she does is she does the exact same thing that I was just showing you as fast as I could, drop it in the CapCut, and then be able to make added captions and make vertical video for LinkedIn. But this is the same whether you're doing LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all that. It's all the same. Vendy has a great video there, and I think we're certainly gonna help her market this, because not to mention, Quince, I did, with the way we've got this set up, you could do vertical video. And even though our TimeBolt logo is stuck at the bottom on the free version, everybody should have TimeBolt on their computer that's doing vertical video, because in reality, if you're doing talking head, that bottom piece right there is outside the habitable zone anyway. That little zone almost it stretches out down into the bottom part. You just put on a full-on, you just use that whole bottom part for your captions and just make it a solid color. You don't even see the logo. We don't care. Like, you have to go through kind of a step to do that, because we know eventually people are going to want to make things other than just vertical shorts, because 60 seconds isn't a whole lot of time to influence people versus having a YouTube channel. But
Instagram gives you 90 seconds, right?
90 seconds.
And 90 seconds. But like, you can do all this basically for free in TimeBolt if you just plan your captions right inside CapCut. Because now the things that cost money in these editors are what TimeBolt does. It's the paid transcriptions. And the paid transcriptions, unlike the ones that I just got for free, typically those are the ones that are saying your word starts and stops at this 100th of a millisecond. And that takes a lot more compute power, I guess, to generate. And that's why like that's the paid transcriptions all of us pay for. If we're using transcriptions, it's all based on the same broke technology when it comes to like cutting, like.
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't used transcriptions at all yet. Just a little bit on our shorts, actually.
Well, that's to edit with, like, but there's like editing by transcript and then editing by sound, by silence, right? Editing by transcript, what they do is they basically they have a start and stop endpoint. So your word is translated into text, and that text is given each word a start and stop endpoint down to the millisecond. And then it's placed on a point in time. And that's why it's inherently inaccurate. Right? When you add in all the non-human sounds, like ends of words get cut off, you get sloppy start to cuts. Like inside TimeBolt, I showed you a 0.01 left padding. You're relegated to 0.2, or you cut off the front of the words too inside these transcription-based editors. But people stop their search when they think of AI because they think it's the best that they can do, when in fact they're taking 3 times longer than what is necessary, which greatly impacts the amount of video you make.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know, that's kind of the word.
What is she using for all of her text here?
CapCut.
Is this LinkedIn? I'm sorry, CapCut?
CapCut.
Okay, I haven't used CapCut. All right.
No, that's what I was showing. Yeah, that's
you showed me that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But she'll go into some like in-depth kind of tutorials about how to do little things and
appreciate that.
And all that. But excellent.
Steinberger.
Vendy Steinberga.
Appreciate this. You sent me a photo of your son in an F-16, and at first it looked like it was Horizon on the water, and then I realized no, everything's the Air Force. There are mountains there.
I hope, dude. I can't believe I didn't share that one with you. Coincident.
Yeah.
Dude, just random and complete randomness. He's in an F6. He's in the cockpit of an F-16, moving it on the goddamn tarmac with a Sidewinder missile. Like what I'm saying, these are around real like the latest jets you can't even talk about. But like the new B-2B, I think it's called the B-2B. It can be unmanned. He's been up in that cockpit of the world's most advanced bomber. Right? Wow. They're pretty incredible.
Where are you located? Are you in India? Did I
India.
see one time? What part of India?
I live in Bangalore, but I'm from Mumbai.
Let's go ahead. I think we got the point on how to combine all the video. You got a good basis from where to start. Maybe just join us in a week or two. Come back, let us know how the progress is going.
I would appreciate that. Let me just take a quick look because I can see what's going to happen. I'm going to jump from this to try and to take a look at that major event. And my goal was to try to get that out today. Actually release it today. I know that's a tall order, but
well, it's not, because our product guarantee, okay, like what our brand promise is about. If you learn TimeBolt, you can edit a video down and polish it and make it in all these different formats in less time than it took you to record. Wow. You learn those keys. It's a 1-to-1 edit efficiency. That's what our goal is, to get in and out. That's how Winston built this. Okay. Like even the menus, like the menus aren't menus. You click a button and something actually happens. You don't then go to another menu and then have to do all this other menu stuff. And then I don't even know how he's able to get stuff down. When you say 5 clicks, that's how long you can cut out 85% of stuff to make sure you sound your own voice. So after it gets done rendering, this is our final output.
Words are hard, videos are performance. Drop the time to edit from 5 hours down to 17 seconds. All these transcription editors use the same broke technology.
Every transcript-based editor I've seen, they can cut the silences out for you in the words that you don't want, but the accuracy leaves a lot to be desired.
He goes on to say he hasn't saved this much time since the invention of the word processor.
Saves me so much time with editing. I love it.
TimeBolt uses silence detection, not AI transcription, for a base cut that's 20 times more precise. Speed can unlock video communications at work. We solve attention deficit video disorder for work and YouTube.
Nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You mentioned you have.
That's the part we zoomed into.
Yep. You see? Yeah. Did you see that?
I did.
There's nothing jarring about that. It was quick delivery of information. You can then get into, okay, well, maybe I want to add some background music to the coming up. Maybe I want to put a logo on that. You can start figuring out how to do those things in TimeBolt. I could just throw all this stuff. Like that's the thing. Wow. Once you're like, oh wow, I can add background music onto individual files, but I can't do it inside Stitch. I want to render this video, this intro video, for example, with the markers. You could just render it as inside TimeBolt, add the background audio, and instead of applying a JSON file for the markers, you've got a finished cut file, right? Like you've already got a rendered MP4 with the background audio, whatever logo you want on it, and you could just use that as a video. It just depends on how deep you want to get. I really recommend like having audio in the coming up sections, and like there's just something that sets it apart. And I always try and do that. It's just another layer, but don't get stuck.
You said having audio in the coming up sections. I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
Like we were just watching a teaser, right? This is basically a teaser before the main video. And typically these videos are going to be like 30, 40 minutes long, not 8
Right.
of highly scripted content.
Right.
Like if you're doing an interview, you can't, like we're doing here, like I would go in, I could pull out cool things that you said about TimeBolt, you said about yourself, things you're like, oh, wow. And then I pull all that to the front. I take our highlights, I pull that to the front. I add some background audio to where kind of amped up. It's just like a series of quick cuts that is a 30-second representation of what's.
I misunderstood your phrase coming up, your highlights section.
Yes. So those are the types of advanced things. Don't get stuck on that stuff right now. You don't need all that advanced stuff. Your first part is how do I just make sure that I make watchable video content? And that's that good foundation.
Quinston, what's the time in Bangalore? I was trying to look it up on my iPhone.
It's 9:16 p.m.
All right. And Doug, the question for you too, is there a way that if we just covered so much today, and please do put the video up if you can. I know it's late where you are, Quinston, if you can, because I'll refer to I promise you I'll refer to the video first and try to get any questions answered through the video if I can, first and foremost. But if I get stuck, is there a way that I can, is this a support chat on the bottom right that I'm looking at?
We don't have support
chat.
I'm happy to help where I can. Sure.
Okay. If I have
and we have like a lot of help documentation. You can go to help.timebolt.io and we have a search bar where you can just type in whatever you're looking for.
Okay. You have a great number of videos online, which are terrific. I anticipate that they'll be great for me.
And you can just email Doug if you have any issues.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Good delegation, Quiz.
It should, I'm confident as you start going through it, things will start clicking. You remember, it'll take me to fully cut up this video. We've been on a call for almost 2 hours. Right. Almost I'm going to need another 2 hours to go in but it's valuable to us and other people. The last one that I sent, like that email notice that I sent out, that was another person that I talked to that was just brand new at editing TimeBolt. Right. You just get in and you start pressing those keys and it'll start coming together for you. And then it'll be more of a function like, okay, I got the JSON saved. I got the punch. I got the chapter markers. Shit is lined up. Like everything's good on this timeline. How do I segregate just the markers or like I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help at any point. I'm just saying I think you're going to be able to get to that point, meet your goal for getting this thing out.
Thank you.
I'll help you out, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen.
That's it for this episode of TimeBolt Office Hours on October 3rd. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course the notification bell when we go live. And we're out of time. Thanks again, Ellen. Appreciate you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.